How's it going, everyone? My name is Jackson,
My name is Natalie.
and today we are with the School of Communication interviewing some of our recent alumni and graduates.
Today we will be interviewing Cooper Scott, who we all know and love, and he's going to tell us about some of his experiences post-grad and more about the School of Comm and his overall time with Chapman.
Yeah. Cooper, how's it going?
I'm doing lovely today. How are you guys?
Doing great, honestly. We have
I'm good.
we have a couple questions for you if you don't mind us asking. Natalie, if you want to
Oh,
start
yeah,
us
man.
off.
Yeah, okay. So do you want to go ahead and provide kind of an overview of your academic and extracurricular experiences at Chapman, like major, minor, and I know that you were involved in a couple clubs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was at Chapman, my major was strategic and corporate communications. I didn't come in with that major. I actually came in undeclared because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do a lot of different things, but I didn't know what. So I had to kind of figure that out. And then my minor was creative and cultural industries. I was a huge fan of that minor. I thought it paired really well with the School of Comm. And it's just like a very kind of free flowing, fun minor to have. And then as far as clubs and involvement went, I felt like I was very involved in my college experience. I was in quite a few clubs. I was in a social fraternity, Beta Theta Pi. I was part of Camp Kesem, which is an awesome club run through Chapman to help kids whose parents have been affected by cancer. Go check them out. And then Be Positive as well, which helps fundraise to help support kids who have cancer and treatments and all that great stuff that goes into that. So I was involved in a lot. And then the thing that I always loved to do was just get involved in other things, not like officially, like I would never like take on positions or anything like that. But I was always kind of down to help people out and learn what was going on in different areas. Like I'd always go help my Dodge friends with different things and a lot of stuff like that. So I was always trying to be like a yes man when I was in college and try to get as many experiences as I can. But as far as like positions, I held a position in Kesem, which was super cool. I was our operations coordinator, so I got to plan an entire week of summer camp for those kids. And yeah, so that was kind of an overview of my 4 years at Chapman.
Busy
on.
man.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a busy time while you were here at Chapman.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just wanted to. I was like excited to get involved in a lot of things. And freshman year, I think I joined like way too many clubs. Like I went to the involvement fair, which is great, and I signed up for way too many clubs. And then that next day, I got all the emails about all the meetings and stuff, and I was like, oh my god, I can't do all of this. So over the next like 2 years, I tried to like hone it down into more of a few things that I was more passionate about. Try to get the most out of all of those instead of being kind of spread out between a million different things.
100%. So going off of that, we're wondering, why did you choose to attend Chapman University and more so also pursue a degree within the School of Communication? What led to that?
Yeah, Chapman was kind of like the perfect collection of all the things that I was looking for in a college. I grew up in like the smallest town in the world in Humboldt County, which is way up in NorCal, and there's not really a lot of people here, to be honest with you. I was in a public high school that had about 200 kids total,
Wow.
not just in my grade, but in the entire school. So I had a very strange experience pre-college. All of that was a very small town kind of feel. So what was cool about Chapman was I had a very similar vibe there. I don't think Chapman's like a tiny school. I don't think it's too small at all. I called it like the Goldilocks size for me because I was like, it's not too big. I'm not going to feel like I'm like lost in these classes that teachers don't know me or anything like that. But I'm also not going to feel like I'm in like a 200-person high school. So it was the perfect thing as far as size went, which was a really, really big factor for me because I know that kind of make or breaks a big part of your college education, whether or not you can actually like connect with teachers, have time to talk to them. And honestly, just like when you raise your hand and the teacher calls you out by name instead of being like you in the top in the 100th row on the back in the red shirt, like what's your question? So that was a big thing for me. And then obviously location, pretty hard to beat the location of Chapman. I didn't really want to be in the city of Los Angeles. I knew I wanted to be down in SoCal, but I didn't want to be like in the big city. And I think Orange County was that perfect middle ground for me. Orange is like it's like the perfect middle ground. It was just enough of like the college experience where it was like you felt like there was an active young group of people doing things, but at the same time, you could walk around the neighborhood at night or like go on strolls, and it really felt like a small collective, like a nice little nice small town. And so that was huge for me. I think once I visited Chapman, I was really sold. Like I was pretty sure I wanted to go, and then I walked around the campus did a tour. Oh, I also forgot to mention I worked in the Office of Admission when I was at Chapman. I was a tour guide as well,
Yes.
which was honestly one of my favorite things. And it was great because I was studying communication and I was doing it for my job. So I could make a joke every time I was a tour guide. I was like, this is helping my college education. So I think just a big mix of all those things came together. And Chapman was my number one. As soon as I got into Chapman, all the other acceptance or declines, it didn't really matter to me because I kind of already knew what I was thinking, and Chapman checked pretty much every single box. There was really nothing that I was worried about when I was coming to Chapman. Everything kind of aligned perfectly for me, which is not the case always, definitely not the case for a lot of people, but it was nice because that's kind of how it ended up working out for me.
Did you know that you wanted to do a communications major right away, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So I knew some older people. My sister had studied communications, and I knew some other people in the School of Comm who were kind of like pitching it to me because I really wanted to go into. I was really interested in like marketing and like creative content creation, kind of just like the creative side of marketing more, not so much the analytical side of like business. I wasn't really so interested in that side of things. I was more in the creative side, and because of that, I was like, I know I don't really want to get like a business degree, but I know I want to do something in the space of like communicating with people, creating projects, working on things with groups. I didn't even know SCC existed when I got admitted at Chapman, which is pretty funny. Like the major I ended up having, I didn't even know was offered when I first got here. So what I did, and this is like a great piece of advice for anybody who's undeclared who doesn't know what they want to do, is I just took like a million intros to different majors my freshman year. So my first 2 semesters were literally intro to everything, intro to sociology, intro to psychology, intro to all these different things. And I realized there's a lot of things I did not want to study and that I did not like. Sorry if you're a sociology major, keep on your path. But oh my God, I took one sociology class and I was like, cool, that is not what I'm going to major in. And I took some communication classes, realized I love talking. I love attention. I love when people listen to me. And so it was kind of a no-brainer, right? I was like, cool, I'll become a communications major. I mean, there was a lot more to it than that, but it was just really like the subject matter, the classes, the fact that it has like a set curriculum, but you can also do a million things with it is one of my favorite things about it, because people ask me like, oh, what do you do with your degree? And I'm like, I could do anything, name a thing, and I can explain how my degree would make me qualified to do that. So that was a lot of like how I ended up being drawn towards the School of Comm.
Wait, were you a communication major or SCC major?
I was an SCC major.
Oh, yeah.
Strategic and corporate communications, baby.
What would you say your favorite aspects of the major in School of Comm were for you, or just like any pivotal moment you had or highlights during your time?
I would say, and this is like kind of an overall statement that works for Chapman, is that like nothing's too big. Like one of my favorite things to say when I was at Chapman was nothing's oversaturated to the point where you can't get involved in it. So like a lot of the clubs, even like different majors, like you could go and like work on projects with other majors because it's not like there's a line out the door of people waiting to do that. Which is also a great thing about Chapman Radio, which is what you guys are doing right now. Like I loved Chapman Radio, and once you ask, you're like, hey, can I help out? All of a sudden you have a position way bigger than you could have possibly imagined, and you have more responsibility than maybe you asked for. And I think that's a great thing to have. And so the School of Comm for me, it was just like all of the professors were so open and available to me. Like the people who were teaching the highest level classes in the School of Comm were like always available to talk and chat. And so I think that was a really big part of it for me. Being in really small classes was huge. I mean, like the classes I was in for the School of Comm were usually 15 to 20 people. The bigger classes, maybe like 25. And I thought that was great because you work with people all the time. And it's similar to how it ends up being like post-grad when you're working at an actual place. And you know what I mean? You get thrown in with like 20 people and you got to be able to work together. And I think that's what the School of Comm really taught me, and why I really liked it was I felt very personalized. And I also never felt like it was like, hey, here's the project that we're working on. You have to do it this one way. A really cool thing that I liked about the School of Comm is they'd be like, hey, we're doing a project on, let's say, putting together an advertising campaign for, some company. You guys go pick the company and what the subject is and like where you want to do your marketing, because like it gives so much more autonomy to what you're working on, and it makes it so you can pick things that you're passionate about, which is what I really liked, because I never felt like I was doing a project for something I didn't care about, because I could always kind of cater it to what my interests were. And so by the time I graduated, I was like, this is perfect. I've done all this entertainment marketing class stuff in the past because none of my teachers were like, here's the exact rubric you have to follow. It's more like a free flow, which is great because some kids want to go into like communications to work in like an HR position or be like, like somebody who mediates. But for me, it was more of that strategic corporate communications where I was like, I want to be able to either represent businesses, speak on behalf of big companies, and kind of be more on that side of things. So I think it's really cool that you have the ability to kind of specify your major into more so what you're interested in. I think that's really unique to the communications degree. I don't think that that's something that you really get in a lot of other majors. I think you get that in a lot of minors. Like my CCI minor was very much so exactly like that, where it was like, here's a creative and cultural industry. You can pick what industry you want to study and what you want to focus on. This is just the umbrella that we kind of focus on.
Well, that's what Jackson and I were saying too earlier. We were saying that with SCC and comm, it's a lot of like freedom and creativity rather than kind of a by the book situation.
And I think also that yeah, I think also with that it allows students to, I would say, it's not really, I wouldn't say like trial by fire, but more so like if you do well, then great, you learn like how to succeed. But even if you like fail, you learn from that mistake as well in terms of like how to approach marketing and also just communicating. But going off of that, Cooper, we want to talk about your postgraduate life now and like as you develop your professional career. We want to know, how did your education within the School of Communication prepare you for your current career and career goals? And feel free to talk about like what you do for work now, what you're planning on doing. But how did your time within the School of Comm prepare you for that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I am currently working at a company called Trailer Park, which is not a trailer park. I promise you guys. People have taken that. So Trailer Park Group is the company, and we do basically 360 entertainment marketing, which is kind of awesome because that's literally what, if you would have asked me like my junior year what I want to work in, it's entertainment marketing. So I'm super blessed. I'm super happy about that. And so we do all kinds of different things. We cut movie trailers, which is awesome. We were lucky enough to get to cut the Oppenheimer trailer. We've done a bunch of other really cool stuff. We also do billboards. So we have a team called Art Machine within Trailer Park Group, and they make billboards. So we do a lot of Disney stuff. So if you see like any of the new Loki billboards, that was through our company. And then we have a bunch of other smaller companies. We have like a gaming department that does, they do like pretty much commercials and like advertisements for like Call of Duty and fun different things like that. So we do a lot of different things. It's very cool. If anybody listening is interested, please look into it because I love it. I'm a very big fan of being at Trailer Park.
Did you know about the company before you applied? Like, this was your first job post-grad, right?
Yeah, this was my first job post-grad. So I had one connection through a informational interview that I did while I was in the School of Comm. Huge. I could not recommend that more to anybody else. Like, a really great thing about the School of Comm is you're gonna be forced to do it. Like in one of your classes at some point, you're gonna have to do an informational interview with an alumni. And if you're like, oh, this is annoying, like I don't want to do this, but then after you do it, you learn so much and you're like, wow, this is awesome. And all of the people, another great plug for Chapman being a great school to go to is the alumni network is like not only really awesome, but really accessible. That's the thing people don't talk about as much because a lot of schools will be like, we have a great alumni network, but it's like a bunch of people that you can't get in contact with. So how's that going to help you? That's not going to be helpful. Chapman, I've never reached out to a Chapman alumni on LinkedIn through a connection ever and not gotten a response and not gotten them being like, let's set up a phone call. When do you want to talk? How can I help? So that is another like really cool thing that you get out of Chapman. And I think that goes for Chapman as like an entire school. We're just small enough and personalized enough that people feel confident helping out current students once they're graduated because Chapman just has a similar vibe with all of its students. That's kind of, I think, how we do our admission is not like statistics and all that. It's more based on like who you are as a person, which is why Chapman a specific. But to wrap it back to School of Comm for my current job, I'm a production assistant right now at Trailer Park. So I would like to give you a day in my life, but it's always different, which is something I'm really happy about because it's like you never know what you're going to be working on. So I help out everybody from editors to people doing photo shoots. And then in my free time, I'm usually just like cutting trailers and trying to get better at that because my position would go into being an assistant editor and then an editor eventually for trailers and stuff. But the thing that I noticed that really gave me like a leg up once I graduated was that the School of Comm teaches you how to market yourself. And this is a seriously undervalued skill to have, because like when you're doing an interview, like everybody thinks like, oh yeah, you do an interview if you're qualified, you get it. But man, oh man, like you'd be surprised. You have to know how you articulate yourself, what your education is, what you've done over the last 4 years in a way that gets it across. And I think that that's something that like a lot of students who will graduate with other majors are like, I'm having a hard time getting a job, but School of Comm kids seem to get jobs like a lot, and you know, like always having like different things along the way. Like you're always doing internships and stuff like that. And people are always like, how are they getting all these things? I really do think it's the interview process and the fact that we are taught to articulate and basically sell ourselves. Like you're really a salesman for yourself at that point when you're doing like a job interview or interviewing for anything like that. So I think that was a huge leg up for me, was like when I was in those interviews, I knew the right things to say. I knew how to get those points across clearly. And also I'm just like, I feel like I'm a good enough person in the business setting that like I took some like the organizational communication classes, business comm. Those classes are so helpful once you're actually in the real world and in those positions and working. It's like things that you don't really think about because for us it's almost common sense because we studied it for 4 years. You know what I mean? Like we don't think about how specifically helpful those things are because we're like, oh yeah, I mean, I've studied that since I was a freshman. Of course, that's how it's going to be. But a lot of other people don't get that education, and I think that kind of sets us apart from a lot of other, not just majors at Chapman, but just like people in general. Like I think it's a huge skill that the School of Comm kids get specifically is how to sell themselves.
Do you have any like other, I know you mentioned some of the classes, but like any other like specific classes that you think helped prepare you to get your job with Trailer Park? Like that you remember like doing an activity in class, or like if it was a certain, like I said before, class that was like you were currently like applying those skills to your job right now or the interview too?
Yeah, I think a big part of something that got me like really prepared for how things are post grad was my capstone. We did a pretty awesome project for Dr. LaBelle, where we kind of took over the first generation messaging at Chapman for basically the whole semester and revamped the whole first gen experience and kind of how they did all their marketing and messaging. And the thing that that really taught me was kind of how to effectively work in teams, because you do a lot of theoretical projects in the School of Comm throughout your time, but there's not that many that you get to actually like take over a real thing that's happening. And so the fact that we got to literally fully take over the messaging for the first gen community at Chapman was pretty nutty to me. And it was really cool because I finally got to like put it all out and like do all the things that we've been studying. And so the thing that that taught me was just kind of how to work in teams and be a part of a bigger project. Because when you do all those other projects, you're in like a group of like 5 or 6. This is a whole class working together for one thing. So you're in all these different, you know, sections of one marketing thing. And so just being able to work with people, and I don't even just mean like working in a team and like things being good. I mean like when you have somebody who's slacking or somebody who's not, you know, you're not vibing with them, but you have to get this thing done together. And that's a lot of what working in the real world is. You know what I mean? People suck sometimes. That's the truth. You got to figure out how to get around it. You got to figure out how to be respectful and task oriented. I got lucky. I didn't have anybody who I was beefing with in my capstone class. So that ended up being good. But it was just, you know, having people who are working in different sections of the same project. And it really makes communication the biggest part of it. And I think that that's a big thing that I've had in my position now is I'm really good at communicating. So I don't think I'm ever like messing up because I'm scared to ask questions or scared to clarify things. And I think that's just a really great kind of skill to have, is being open to talking and like not feeling like I need to know everything, knowing the right questions to ask.
So would you say like post graduation you felt more prepared to enter that job world because of your experience with School of Comm, like you were saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I obviously already like raved about like how well it helps you getting ready for like interviews and stuff. But oh yeah, I mean, like I just think that our major SCC and School of Comm in general gets you so prepared with working with other people. And like I can't speak to a lot of other majors because I didn't major in those majors, but you know what I mean? Like for us, it's so group and like team oriented that once you go into the real world, you're not going to be like that guy who's slacking on a group fight. You're not going to be that person who's scared to communicate or like I feel like everybody in the school con, we would rather over communicate than have something be missed or like overlooked or something like that. And I think that's kind of a trait that comes from the school con specifically.
100%. You've already talked about it quite a bit, Cooper, but we wanted to ask you if you could like describe the transition from life as a student on campus to your life post graduation in the workforce, and what some of the challenges or adjustments have been that you didn't necessarily foresee coming.
You guys are both seniors, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't want to upset you guys, but I'm going to be very honest with you guys.
I'm so scared.
Post grad life, once you get a job, is really, really, really rough. And I don't mean that as I'm like hate life. I just mean like the adjustment to doing like the way that I can break it down is I feel like when I was in college, I was really busy, I had a lot going on, but it was because I was involved in a lot of different things. So I had a lot going on, but they were all individual things. Like I'd have my club meetings, I'd have my classes, I'd do things with my fraternity, I would hang out with my friends outside of that. So I felt like there was a lot going on, but it was all spread out between different things. Once you're in post-grad life, you have a lot going on, but it's just one thing that happens every single day, Monday through Friday. And I love my job, so I'm not like dreading going to work, which is really lucky. I think I'd be having a bit of an existential crisis if I didn't like my job at the moment, kind of getting used to working all the time. I do think a funny thing about it is like my downtime and my free time is a lot more enjoyable now, because I'm sure you guys can relate to this. When you're in college, if you have downtime and you have free time and you're not doing anything, it's like, why are you not doing something? You know what I mean? It's like you can't really just enjoy doing nothing because, oh man, like you could be getting ahead on schoolwork, or your friends are going and doing this, or there's a million things happening in college, and it's great. Take advantage of it. Do all of it, because I wish I had a million things going on now. It's a little rough, but like nowadays when I have nothing going on, I literally have nothing going on. I have no schoolwork to do. I have nothing else to do. So in that sense, my free time has become a lot more enjoyable. I can put, effort into my passions. I love photography. I love making videos. I love content creation. So I can kind of enjoy that stuff without feeling like I'm slacking on not doing other stuff. So it's a huge adjustment. It's really, really weird. Hopefully you get a job that you at least decently like, because that's really helpful. I'll tell you what, guys, it's awesome to have money. You got money. Money's awesome. You know what I mean? I'm not going to lie. Living in LA makes it a little bit tricky. It is very expensive out here. It's also so much to go out and do, which makes it also hard not to spend money. But you know what? We're budgeting. That's what being an adult is all about. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a weird transition, but it's something that is really exciting. And it's just a weird time in life. You know what I mean? You got 4 years of doing roughly the same thing. You know what I mean? Even though it's all every day is different in college, but you're doing roughly the same thing for 4 years. And now life just becomes very different. And I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm also having a hard time kind of adjusting to being busy and like having like my whole day kind of set out. I don't work virtually. I work in person. So I'm in the office every day, making that commute. I'm not that far away. I'm like 30 minutes from the office, so it's really not that bad. But yeah, it's just a lot. It's a lot to kind of adjust to. It's a very different lifestyle. But I think I'm starting to kind of finally settle into it where I'm making the most of my weekends, which is nice. And it's cool because you kind of have to. I'm so bad about planning things, you guys. The best thing about being in college is that you don't have to plan anything. Things just happen. And you can just hop on them. Or your club plans it, or your fraternity plans it, or somebody else plans it. I'm not a planner, you guys. And it was rough. The first like 3 months at post-grad, didn't know what to do because I'm a bad planner. But now I'm adjusting. And I'm really enjoying like the balance I have right now between working and like having my free time. My job also isn't super like demanding. Like I don't have a lot of overtime. My hours are usually pretty accurate to what they are. And so it's not like I'm like, staying up till midnight having to work on projects or anything like that. I think that's more like the management agency space, not so much like where I'm at. So I'm enjoying it a lot, but I just want to be real with you guys. It is a hard adjustment, and it feels like you have no time to do anything because you're working all the time. But that is not the case. It just kind of feels like that for a little bit.
Remind me, did you like know that you were moving to LA after you graduated? Like, did you have the job? Like, when did you start interviewing with the job? Like, was it set up or was it after you moved?
I knew I was coming to LA for sure. I was like, I'm going to LA, man. Like, I love it in SoCal, but I'm not staying in Orange County. Orange County's great, but I think I would rather retire there when I'm 80.
Yeah,
I don't
that
want
makes
to. I don't want,
sense.
like, Orange is awesome when you're in college, but I don't think I'd want to live there post grad. So I knew I wanted to come up to LA, and I had some roommates, so that was really easy. And I had to finish up my club KESM involvement because we had summer camp that summer that I had planned. So I knew I couldn't get a job before that. So we did the summer camp like 2 weeks after I graduated. I did that, came back, we got our place, and I think I was here for about a month. I was looking for jobs. I was applying to everything. Huge also piece of advice for you guys and everybody listening. Do as much applying to like online job postings as you do reaching out to people personally, because like when I was a tour guide, we would always say, 80% of post grad jobs are found through networking. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, that can't be accurate. No way, 80%. That's a really high percentage. And once I graduated and I was looking for jobs, guess what? That is a very, very accurate number right now. Just because like a million people applying for jobs on portals and like on company websites. And I'm not saying don't do that. Absolutely do that. I know many people who got jobs doing that. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult. And when you have somebody referring you to a job, you just have like a 100% chance higher of getting that job. It's just like a much, much better way to go about it. So do your informational interviews when you're in college. Reach out to as many people as you can. They don't have to be like higher ups. They could just be Chapman alumni. I connected with somebody who was working at Trailer Park Group, did an informational interview beginning of my senior year, kind of planted the seed of like, hey, I'm graduating in a year, coming up to LA. I'd love to get a job, but more subtly, obviously. And then once I was actually down here, I reached out to him again and had a very disheartening phone call where I called him and I was like, hey, I'm looking for jobs. Like, how's it going over there? And he goes, yeah, we're not really hiring people. We're firing people. And I was like, oh, okay. That's pretty sad. But it was also right when the strike hit. So just, for everybody who's listening, I was going into the entertainment industry as the writers and actors strike was kind of first kicking off. So it was really rough. None of my friends were getting jobs. Everybody was kind of just like, I'll find something temporary until we can get back into the entertainment industry. And funny enough, a week after he told me we're not hiring people, we're firing people, he reached back out and said, hey, we just had an opening for a production assistant role. I'm going to send your resume over and recommend you. Let me know if you're interested. Obviously, I was interested. I was like, yes, please do that. And then it was like the quickest interview process in the world. I don't think they had a lot of, I don't even know if they I don't know how their hiring process went, but it didn't seem like they were really vetting that many people. It seemed like a pretty small group of people who got recommended. And so I interviewed one time, interviewed with another person who would have been my supervisor like 2 days later. And then within the week that I interviewed, like let's say Monday or whatever, they had offered me the job on Friday, which is not a normal time frame. That is super, super fast. But they were also trying to fill the position pretty fast. And they had people who had been recommended. So it was a little bit easier for them.
That's exciting.
So it was kind of circumstantial, I suppose. But definitely like reach out to people because I do think that's your best chances, at least getting recommended to a job, and then you can apply to it.
Yeah.
I guess to kind of close off the interview from what you've been saying, I think you kind of touched base on it a little bit, but do you have any other pieces of advice that for people or students coming into the School of Comm and like maybe what to expect out of the school, since I know you talked a lot about post-grad life as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're coming to the School of Comm, just like be open to everything because all the teachers offer such different, unique perspectives, and that's the really cool thing is you have access to all these teachers, man. Like, get to know your professors. Those people are awesome people. Sometimes you're like, oh, it's just my teacher. But no, like this person works in the field that you want to go into. They have connections. I know so many people who got jobs from their professors, like being close to the professors. And like, don't be afraid to literally just ask. Be like, yo, I need an internship this summer. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, can you help me out? And maybe they say no, but maybe they say yes. So that would be a really big piece of advice for me is like, get to know your teachers, really spend time putting in effort into those relationships. Cause like, that's the big difference between high school and college is in college, like your teachers aren't just your teachers. They're very much so like your friends and people that can be very helpful to you and people who are much more knowledgeable than you are. I mean, I know when I was a freshman in college, I thought I knew everything. at least now I know I don't know anything. At least I can say that, right? Like, you know what I mean? So that would be a really big piece of advice. I'd say another thing would be get involved in as much as you can. Don't overstretch yourself, because then you're not really involved in anything. You're just a part of a lot of things.
Mhm.
Get involved in things, figure out what you want to spend your time doing, and really commit to that. Join some clubs, find some extracurricular stuff that you can spend your time doing. Because it's just, God, Chapman has such a unique community in that sense. Like, we really have such cool little sub communities, but together we all kind of come together. So find those clubs, find those sub communities, figure out who your people are. And that, I really said that was probably the best way to do it. And yeah, enjoy your time in college. It goes by fast. And I feel like I am an old person now telling you guys how fast
I
college
know.
goes, and to cherish your moments.
Well, Cooper, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. We really appreciate it, man. And
Yeah, man, I'm happy to.
And with
Yeah.
that, thank you all for tuning in, and stay tuned and check out some of our more episodes with other alumni as we progress through the semester. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, man. And for anybody listening, don't be afraid to reach out to me. Hit me up.
Yeah,
I'm Chapman
we
alumni.
go.
I was gonna say, Cooper, how can people reach out to you if they have any questions or want to talk?
I'm gonna be really professional right now. Go ahead and hit me up on LinkedIn.
There you
Oh,
go.
there you go. He's a
There was
grown
a
man.
split second there where I almost said DM me. Don't DM me. Don't DM me. Please just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I will respond. I love getting LinkedIn messages. I was just chatting with a Chapman kid the other day who hit me up to ask me a little bit about my job. So yeah, please reach out.
There you go. Well,
Perfect.
thank you, Cooper.
Thank you, Cooper, and thank you all for
Thank you,
tuning
guys.
in.